It's me, obviously, and I'm going over what I have learned in week 2 of DBT. I know not many people are watching at the moment, but if you don't know, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I have started a weekly therapy for dialectical behaviour therapy, which I do explain in previous videos. So this week I felt was a lot more intense than last week. It was because like last week it was like the first session, so it was more kind of observing like other people. Well, it wasn't observing other people, like even though there was some involvement, my involvement wasn't as in depth. Which we'll come on to. I apologise if these videos do seem a bit over the place. I kind of have a plan on what I'm going to speak about, but sometimes it doesn't always go to plan. Now, DBT follows kind of the same structure each week. It begins with a mindfulness activity, and then the next section is we talk about the diaries from the week previous, and then after that we sort of go a bit more into the theory. So today's activity, it was the mindfulness activity, because the whole point of mindfulness is to try and bring you kind of to the moment. So it's it's a type of guided meditation, and like a lot of people find them very soothing, but I find it really quite frustrating, because I'm a bit like, oh, come on, it's a waste of time, let's kind of skip it and just get on with actual learning. But it was interesting that other people kind of find it relaxing, and that it symbolises the support that we receive from the therapy. I don't know, I think I'll probably enjoy it more once I become more used to it. It's like when I've tried like meditating before, like I don't feel I have the time for it. Like I've done, I use the Calm app and I use the guided meditation on there, like a 5-minute one, and I end up just skipping it on my phone so I can just hurry up and finish it. I don't really find it very relaxing, but from the theory I understand, like apparently it can help you be more sort of calm in the moment. This is actually quite hard to talk about. So the diary sheets that we keep, we have to write about just one particular event that happens in the week that makes you feel like a very intense emotion. It's okay. I'll sort of go over the basics. So basically what mine was, I was in a sports shop, buying like some football equipment that I needed because I play American football. And so I'm laughing about it now, but at the time, and it wasn't funny. And basically the shopkeeper, he was just like, "Oh, I think you need to get a jock strap," and I was like, "I kind of think I don't." But then he kept going on and on and on that I needed one. He said like 4 times, "Oh, you need to get one. You need to get one. You need to get one." And it just really annoyed me. And like on the diary sheet, you have to put, like how you interpret it. Was you making any judgments? And I was obviously judging that he must have thought I was buying it for a guy. Like I thought he was like obnoxious because he wasn't taking into consideration that girls play football. And as I said, just like that anger, like if you've asked me 4 times, I said no the first time, why are you still asking me things? So, I just thought he was really obnoxious, and I could just feel my whole body clenching, hot headache, nose breathing, and I just absolutely burst out him. Like, very insulting. I'm not gonna go into what I actually called him because it was very sweary. But it was basically an attack on him. And yeah, and it was like, obviously in the moment I didn't see a problem with that, because I was very much, well, he shouldn't have made me angry, he should have took no for an answer, and he shouldn't be prying into what I need, I mean, obviously, after it happened, after I was, less angry, I do recognise that is not the correct thing to do. Shouldn't be doing it, but it's not like I plan to do it. I mean, that's not defence. It sounds defensive, but I don't plan to do it. It just, the words are already out my mouth before it's even thought about. So, after we sort of go through with the diary, then other people kind of chip in, sort of with questions or sort of tips to see it from another point of view. And just to get a better understanding, what could have done better, etc. And during the session, I did feel like everyone was very judgy on it. And it's and I do defend it, but I was defending what I was thinking at the time. I wasn't defending what I think, I didn't think that was the right thing to do in general life. It's not life philosophy or anything. And they're asking, well, do you think that's appropriate? And it's like, well, I did at the time, but then everyone sort of took that as oh, you must think that all the time. How would you like it if someone did it to you? And it's and I'd be like, well, if someone did that to me, it would make me think, oh, I've done something wrong here. Maybe I need to change it. And I think that's what, this shopkeeper should have done. But it's and I did get sort of upset at it because it's really frustrating when you're trying to explain something, and it's our tutor, she sort of spoke to me one-on-one. She's like, please don't walk out. And I was trying to explain to her, it's what I was thinking the defensive in the moment doesn't equal what I think on a normal basis, and I think the group would think, but then, and she said, clearly did you explain that? All of this might sound kind of petty for people who don't get so emotional so quickly in any scenario, but that is, part of one of the symptoms of the borderline personality. Emotions go from 0 to 100 over pretty much nothing. It's in hindsight, I could have just gone, look, I don't need one. Or I could have said, look, it's for me, I don't need one. Or I could have just said, I've already got one. I mean, I don't know, that's lying. I don't think I could lie. But anyway, did I need to absolutely lose my temper at him? Nope, I did not. And to me, it's I thought, to me it was obvious that I think that's incorrect and I want to change that. Because why would I be at the therapy otherwise? But, it was pointed out, maybe that's part of the problem, I just assume everyone understands how I communicate things. And, I get frustrated when people don't understand it. So, maybe it does need to change. I mean, there's no maybe, it does, because obviously people don't get it, and it's happened before and stuff. So yeah, and then like we went through a few other people's diaries, and it is really interesting how people perceive different things. It's like a scenario that someone else had in the group. They were like, "Oh, it was terrible, it was awful," and I was like, if that happened, I would be delighted. So that kind of moves. You remember that. This is very jumbling, but as I said, like if you don't like a lot, like if anyone does watch this, and they, you might not be able to relate some of the stuff. It does sound very, very petty, or kind of mediocre. But and it wasn't like I just like said a few things. It's like, I was like literally shouting at this guy over basically nothing. So yeah, like. So yeah, we're sort of going over mindfulness, because one of my questions was, we see, like, when you hear about mindfulness, you think about, kind of sitting for 10 minutes doing a bit of like guided meditation, maybe a little bit of colouring in. Oh, look, I have to be mindful. Be mindful. And my question is, how does that help when you're in one of those situations like in my diary? Because if you're getting annoyed at a shopkeeper, you can't just go, "Oh, I'm going to just meditate here for 10 minutes before I talk to you." Because everything happens so quickly. So my question, was, how do you use it in hints of the moment? But apparently the more you practice it independently, when you are calm, or when you have got time, apparently it will just come when you're not calm. Like, apparently at some point it becomes natural, like you don't have to summon it. So there's different types of skills that you use when you need to be mindful. And the first skills you have to do is to be able to observe the situation, describe a situation, and participate in a situation. But you need to be able to do them all separately. Which I'm not sure if I do fully understand yet. Because to me, the observing and describing are pretty much the same thing, I think. Unless one's in less detail. But, sort of a example of that someone gave was like, say if you were in like a gym class or a dance class, the observation could be, oh, someone is doing a squat. The description would be, a squat is done by putting your your feet shoulder width apart, and then you bend into just below a sitting position. So that would be the describe, so you actually describe how it's been done, and the participate would be actually doing it. Actually, I think it maybe you've got those skills if we go back to the event that happened in the shop. Maybe the observation would be, I was trying to pay for some items, and the shopkeeper was asking what I thought was irrelevant questions. So that was the observation. The description could be, sort of the change in body language description is he was, yeah, I think the description would be like, he wasn't scanning the other items in the till. So the description there is, I thought he wasn't doing what he was meant to be doing. And the participation was probably one, probably like the insult, because I was actually doing something there. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe that's... I don't know if this video, these videos are going to be hard to follow, because as I said, if you don't act and think like this, it must seem like really bizarre and really childish. But, I don't know, maybe some people will understand it, or, they might watch it and go, yeah, we know you do that. The second type of skills is how to be able to do the observation, describe and participate. So the first one, and I think this is the one I struggle with the most, is to be non-judgmental about it. So I'm looking down a lot because I'm reading what I wrote, because there's just far too much to remember. So the non-judgmental is to not say whether it was good or bad. So I got angry because I think being asked the exact same question 4 times in a row, I think that is bad. I think it's rude. I think it shows he wasn't listening. But that is judgment. But upon that is judgmental, because I don't know if that's something he personally chooses to do. He might have had a busy day. He might have forgot whether he's asked. It might be company policy to ask so many questions. I don't know. I'm putting my perception that I think it's bad immediately on there. And talking to people I know, apparently I do see judgment on pretty much everything straight away. I can't even give an example because it's pretty much everything. I think I've mentioned this before, in a job when I've had a maybe email come through, from a manager or a team leader saying, meeting at 2. I put an immediate judgment on that it's obviously bad, I've obviously done something wrong, I'm obviously going to get sacked. That's a judgment. I'll say, this email's bad. This is bad news. So, yeah, maybe on that, if I was to observe it, the observation would be, I have an email. The description would be, I have an email. It came from my team leader. He's asking to go at 2 o'clock. But that's what it says. And the participation would be, go to the meeting at 2. Actually, that will make more sense, because then if you go into a meeting and be more open-minded, well, it's not closed-minded. If you don't go with an expectation it's going to be good or bad, then you can just find out when it happens. But yeah, as I said, it all sounds obvious in theory. It's just the actual act of practicing it, or having it happen. I'm sorry, I'm just reading what I thought. Yeah, so a judgment is judgment's based on what you perceive to be called up, and that can be based on past experiences, based on preferences, based on assumptions, and they can cloud the emotions that are attached to an activity. Let's say, for example, say if previously, I don't know, say previously with an ex-partner, you might have like gone out on a weekend, you might have had fun. You know, weekends were when you did fun stuff. It's where you saw, like, you know, different friends. Or, I mean, it doesn't even have to be with a partner. I mean, it might be when you were younger. And then, say something in your life changes. Say you break up with a partner, or you just generally get older. And then weekends, like, things to do on a weekend kind of fade away. You might then come to dislike weekends because you're like, oh, it's terrible, I have nothing to do, it's not as good as it used to be, I've become old, I've become boring, hate weekends, boring. See, that's, you know, that's a judgment. You're assuming it's going to be bad, they're bad things. Whereas if you were to look at it in the, you know, the observe, describe, participate, you might observe the weekends coming up. The describe might be, oh, a weekend is 48 hours, more hours if you count it from a Friday evening like I do. And then the participate is do something in the 48 hours. You know, you're not saying it whether it's going to be a good thing or it's a bad thing. You know, like, but, you know, not all judgments are bad. Like, you know, some are good. You know, if you want to cross a road, you need to judge how fast the car's going. You know, judge whether you've got time to, you know, run across the road. If you go in the, if you're making yourself a cup of tea, you get the milk out, you need to judge, is that milk on, not on, is that milk fresh, is it not fresh? Like, you need to judge things to kind of keep yourself safe. But they were saying the problems come when you attach a lot of emotion to that judgment. So, maybe for example, like when I go to football training, there's one particular exercise in the warm-up where you kind of get down into a plank and then like kind of walk on your arm and leg and then come up. And I just look at it and I'm like, I do not have the arm strength for that. That's a judgment. I feel I can't do that. And that, as a judgment by itself, is fine. If I was to add an emotion to that, where it's like, oh, I must be crap because I can't do it, that would be an emotional judgment. And I try not to do that. Because, but, you know, maybe I do it in some circumstances, but, you know, when it comes to anything physical, I try not to. And I think one of the issues with people that have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder is we stick to the same judgment for all scenarios. So what I've pretty much found out is like I like to attack and defend any, you know, any scenario. Like, you know, someone might be, oh, that's a nice dress, and I'm like, yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it's got, because I kind of assume they're making a bad judgment, like they might, I assume they're actually mocking the dress. You know, it's like we don't have a set work time, start time at work, as long as it's kind of before 10. And say if I get in at 9, someone might be, oh, nice to see ya. And I will, like, immediately assume they're having a go at me for not being that early, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm here before we start. What's the problem? Like, I'm automatically judging that everyone thinks I am bad. So then I automatically defend that. And to defend it, I tend to, like, counterattack. Which, when it's a very, very minor thing, you might not be able to tell that. This is really hard to talk about. But yeah, the last part of the when you're making decisions or trying to act more mindfully is it's the importance of being, like, trying to be present in the moment, which I think everyone hears, but they don't really practice. And I'm just trying to learn how to focus on one particular thing and not focus on the future about it. So to do that, you need to kind of, like, let go of distractions, like the one at a time. So, for example, if you're trying to eat, focus on what you're eating. If you go for a walk, just focus on the walk. But also the one that kind of surprised me, and I think I kind of maybe connected to, is if you're going to worry about something, worry about that particular thing. And this really sort of got me, because my mind does race off into the future about different things. So, some of you may be aware that I'm in the process of selling the house. I need some work done on the roof, as one of the conditions of the sale. I'll get it fixed. So, my latest worry is I need to now find tradespeople to come out and give a quote and cost on the work that needs doing. Now, but then what I then do is go, right, I need to get the quote, so that means that I'm going to have to sort out what times, and then how about if they don't phone back, when am I going to do this? And then how about if I stay there? Well, if I stay there, how long are they going to be? When will I get the quotes back? How about if they don't get the quotes back in time? How about if nobody gives me a quote? Well, I need to have extra time off work for more people to come, and then if I need the extra time off work, I'm going to have to maybe make up some overtime. When will I do the overtime? If I do the overtime, I'll have to cancel my gym class. And then it goes on and on and on and on. And I'm now worrying about 20 things, whereas my main worry should just be, right, tonight I'll go and check a trade and I'll request some quotes. Like, I'm worrying about things far too much in the future that may or may not happen. Which is hard, I think everyone does it. But I put on the emotion to it as well. Like, if I don't get it done now, I'll be worried, maybe work or get really annoyed at me if I do request time off. And it's just adding, sort of too much. So, one of the suggestions on how to be, like, a bit more mindful is to kind of focus on the goal of the thought or the goal of the situation. So, I've got a dog, and I might be like, okay, I need to take her for a walk. But literally by the time I've walked from the front door to the top of the street, I'll be like, oh, I should be doing this, I should have put dinner on, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, oh, I should be on check a trade, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And then, like, I'm like cut the walk short, and then I haven't actually achieved the goal of what I wanted because I've been too busy focusing on other stuff. And one of the things is, a lot of it is trying to take learn how to take responsibility for their actions, because as I said, at the time when I had a go at this guy in the shop, I was like, he made me angry, he was incompetent. Whereas we need to sort of change that and change it to I got angry at the fact that he didn't meet my expectations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my expectations is right. So it's kind of managing. It's kind of trying, like, because people are like, well, didn't you feel guilty? And I was like, well, no. Because to me, if he'd have done what he was meant to do, then I wouldn't have had to do that. So maybe I should feel a bit more guilty about stuff. And, because, I do have a lot of the emotions that come out. And I think, this is working on how to deal with them and communicate them in a way where I'm not kind of pushing people away. Because people are like, oh, well, what do you think the shopkeeper thinks of you now? And I'm like, well, personally don't care, never going to see him again. Which, we could maybe get away with if it is a shop, someone who you probably won't see again. But this kind of reaction I do have with friends and family. And there's only so much times it's fair on friends or family partners. So, yeah, I went on the set to trying to get it fixed. It sounds like I defamed it a lot, which I don't think I am, but maybe I am. Who knows? It was intense. Again, this video might be very rambly. It might not make sense for people that don't understand what it's like to be so emotional all the time. But that was week 2. Did I cry? Oh, did I cry? Yes. Did I try and storm out of therapy? Yes. But they've got the room set up. Like, say that's like it's a conference table, and I kind of sat here. There's a wall right at the end of the table, well then the door's here, and when you try and storm past but then have to ask 3 people to tuck the chairs in, doesn't make for effective storming off. And that's another behaviour I want to fix, because usually any kind of confrontation, argument, upset, I want to leave, jack everything in, sod the lot of yous. And yeah, that's something we're going to look to change. 2 weeks in, 24 weeks to go. It's intense. It's hard. It's difficult. It doesn't sound like it should be, but it is.